because at that point, USO or not, that's not our country.
Right. What you're saying is World War III could have started with the arrest of Brent Smith of Shinedown. All right, before we begin the show, let's thank our sponsors. First and foremost, our title sponsor, Once Upon a Coconut, all natural, non-GMO coconut water with natural electrolytes and no added sugar. You can choose from pure blueberry, pineapple, watermelon, sparkling energy, and chocolate flavors with Once Upon a Coconut. Stay hydrated and refreshed. And if you're wondering why it tastes so darn good, it's due to a combination of factors, including the freshness and sweetness of young coconut water, the lack of additives, and the natural electrolytes present. And the best part about it, Once Upon a Coconut, 10% of profits go to charity that benefit our communities, including the Down Syndrome Foundation, Breast Cancer Foundation, Leukemia Society. Good things, good people, great product. So you can grab it at some Sprouts, you can grab it on Amazon, you can go online to find a store near you or purchase it right there off of their website, onceuponacoconut.com. It is delish. Big thanks to Inspect All Pest Services, our buddy Nick and the crew over at Inspect All Pest Services, providing the highest quality termite, pest, and wildlife control. That's not all they do. Inspect All can take care of your insulation, pressure washing, gutter maintenance, and other home services in Metro Atlanta and the surrounding areas. Remember, seasonal, you get different bugs and critters all around your house, so you want to go with the best in the business, and that would be one of our fine sponsors from day one, InspectAllServices.com. It's the Mad Dog, Manny Aurora, with the Aurora Law Firm, best darn defense attorney in the world, litigating all over the United States, based out of Georgia. We're talking criminal defense, white-collar crime, DUI, drug offenses, appeals, and more. And you can always get your legal questions answered by the Mad Dog, Manny Aurora, by getting those to me. And when he pops up on a show, you get your questions answered. So go to thebaileyshow.com and we'll get those questions to the Mad Dog. The Aurora Law Firm. He is the best in the business when it comes to therapists. There's no doubt about that. I use them, and so should you. We're talking about Dr. David Markwell with Ridgeline Counseling. He's got 10 therapists in-house, 3 different locations there in Georgia, one across from Sprayberry High School in Sandy Plains in East Cobb, Marietta near the Square in McKaysville, just outside of Blue Ridge. But if you're not in Georgia and you need to talk to the good doctor, then you can go online and get virtual sessions. RidgelineCounseling@gmail.com if you'd like to email him directly, or go online to markwelltherapy.com. There is no better time to check if your insurance is any good. That's why FBC Insurance is waiting for you to reach out. You can call them at 888-308-1841 or email them info@fbcinsuranceservices.com. I just switched up my car insurance because I got a better deal at FBC Insurance. They were the people to find it. Perfect for new homeowners, especially if you're trying to reshop those current insurance policies. 5-star service, multi-policy, bundled discounts, and they're going to shop every carrier out there to find the best insurance for your house, flood, storm season, auto, motorcycle, boat, recreational vehicle, or just a personal policy. 888-308-1841 or go online, FBCInsuranceServices.com. Another one of our great sponsors in storm season. You have to talk to the good people at Alternate Power Solutions of Georgia. Family owned and operated. They are a Generac generator dealer, founded in 2012. So storm season, power goes out. Who knows when it's coming back on? Don't be that guy or girl that does not have a backup plan and having power for whatever it be, especially medical devices, fans, air conditioning, so on and so forth. Offering sales, service, installation, and repair of automatic home standby and portable generators, every single one of you. When you become a customer at Alternate Power Solutions of Georgia, you get an upgraded warranty, free monitoring, and warranty repair. A+ rating with the BB&B, and you pay nothing until the job is complete. Call or request a free home assessment. You can go to their website, poweringgeorgia.com, or buzz them at 770-853-7571. Use the discount code Bailey, my last name, and get $500 off your entire installation. All right? Servicing Georgia and Tennessee. Again, another great sponsor of the BS podcast that is going to come to your aid here during storm season. And I'm talking about Cliff Bratcher and Jayco Contracting. This one hits home for me because I needed advice from Cliff and Jayco Contracting when my mother got a hole in her roof. Now, Jayco Contracting helping the good folks out in Georgia. And if you're in Georgia, you call him this storm season just to know that you're going to be taken care of when that tree falls through your roof or your shingles come off or a hole somehow appears. yours, right? They're a platinum preferred contractor with Owens Corning, licensed and insured roofing and gutter specialists covering all of Georgia. Keep in mind, if you've not gone through this process, Cliff and Jayco Contracting are going to take care of it from start to finish. That means dealing with the insurance companies. That can be a headache and a negotiation, and they're the best to do it. Commercial and residential satisfaction guaranteed. JaycoContracting.com, or 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. You give Cliff Bratcher a call at 770-316-3876. Alive Ozone Therapy Spa in Altamont Springs, Florida. This is mine and my wife's wellness spa. If you have an autoimmune, cancer, HIV, just simple biohacking, long COVID, the answer is yes to just about anything that's going on in your body. Most of the time it starts with inflammation, and ozone therapy, it decreases inflammation. So ozone therapy, we are the first and only to do it in Central Florida. That is Alive Ozone Therapy Spa. We also offer red light therapy, halo therapy, pressotherapy, PMF grounding mat, as well as naturally in-house made ozone infused products like the magnesium butter that many of you absolutely love. Ozone therapy, what is it? Quickly, it repairs and rejuvenates your cells to the mitochondrial level by using activated oxygen. Simple as that. No side effects. That's all there is to it. It's a 30-minute session, and you actually burn up to 600 calories when you're in the Hocket sauna. We do it the most non-invasive way. So whether you're in the area or you want to travel, book an appointment, AliveOzoneTherapySpa.com. All the products you can get there as well. And remember, for you two peers, use the discount code BS10 to take that off those online products. If you want to be a sponsor of the show, reach out to me via thebaileyshow.com. And if you are a listener of this podcast and you need any of our great sponsors, please reach out to them. Now, let's begin.
I think we should do a podcast about rock and roll. And that's some stories.
Yeah, let's do it. Welcome to the Vinyl Road Podcast.
All right, there we go.
Hey.
Episode 3. We're already there. The Vinyl Road Podcast, the podcast that's about rock and roll stories from the road, life, and everything in between. My name is Jason Bailey, and there he is, Mr. Brad Stewart. How are you?
I'm great, man. What's going on?
Another day in the life of a life. I understand that you got your case or cases of Once Upon a Coconut, the title sponsor of the BS Network feed, and it's you're enjoying those, correct?
I took your advice too, and I poured some vodka in the chocolate flavored version, and man, I have to say, holy shit. It was like an espresso martini that you didn't even have to mix or deal with. It was so good. I gave some to my wife, and she's like, oh man, I don't know if that's a good thing, because I mean, you couldn't taste the vodka at all. It was so delicious and dangerous. So and I poured plenty in there. I didn't chintz on the old Tito's there.
It's funny because we have it at a Live Ozone Therapy Spa. We give it to people while we have supplies in house, and it's actually it's a healthy coconut water. So it's for the electrolytes, and it's a little sweeter because they use the younger coconuts and blah 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 blah. But like, we're adults, and you get your vodka, you get your buzz, you get your mixer, and you get your electrolytes all in one drink. But that chocolate is ridiculous. I mean, it's pretty
special, dude. I don't know, man.
I told the owner, John, the creator of Once Upon a Coconut, I said, look, man, if anything else, just make it an alcoholic beverage, just team up.
Skip the middleman. Yeah, do it. Like, have a combination or like a co-branding thing with whoever. I mean, that'd be sick. Smirnoff or Tito's or
so damn good.
Yeah, dude.
All right. Well, let's start with the latest in Brad Stewart news and Saliva. Upcoming tours, shows in the past week, upcoming shows in the next week or so. What are you guys up to?
So we just played a show in Burlington, Iowa. So I don't know if you've ever been to Burlington, Iowa.
No.
I didn't even know there was such thing as a Burlington, Iowa. But that same promoter has had us in several spots in the area, and they're great to us. And they brought in proper stage and lighting and everything, and people showed up. It was one of those where the whole town shows up, and it was
cool.
It was proper show. And, when we're out on the road, I have a mountain bike that I either, if I don't have one, I'll go buy one at a pawn shop or whatever, and I'll go riding around the town, because I'm like, I don't just want to sit on the bus and, whatever. If we don't have a bunch of meet and greets and stuff going on, I'll just disappear for like a couple hours, man. But this town, there was a lot of hills. So I was like, man, I don't know. I actually had to get off the fucking bike and walk. I was like, damn, fuck this. So anyway, I figured out a better pathway to where it wasn't so hilly, but I went around town. I have to say that town in particular, it's on the Mississippi and it's in Iowa. So there's, a lot of corn and I think Quaker oats and all this shits and, and whatever. But it felt cool because it was locally owned. It was like there wasn't a bunch of like McDonald's, and at least in the town part, like the old town part, and it was like everything was like kind of mom and pop and like you kind of unique. They had like a record store, which I tried to hit the record store. I think it was called Weird Harry's or Weird Dave's or some shit. But like I try to hit spots around when I'm in people's towns and so I can find out about what's going on in the town and stuff. And
did they have a Burlington coat factory in Burlington, Iowa?
No, they didn't. I don't know where that came from. Maybe that's a Vermont thing or something.
I have no idea.
I think of Vermont when I think of Burlington, right?
So let's go back to when Brad is on tour. Brad either brings a mountain bike or buys one from a pawn shop.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to sit on the bus. Then what does Brad do when said Brad leaves town with the bike?
No. It rides under the bus.
Yeah. So you keep all of these bikes from every town?
Well, no, sometimes they just get lost or if we're they don't get transferred to the next trailer, or that say we're switching out trailers, switching out buses, switching out bus drivers. Sometimes it doesn't make the switch. So, when it makes sense on that next tour, I'll find like, a pawn shop and I'll just go in there and I'll, I'm not trying to get some kind of Trek super duper mountain, this or that. I mean, which I love my Trek I have here at the house, but I'll get like a beater, man, like a, $60, $80, $100 bike. And that's my bike for the tour, man. And I'll just, and if it needs to be, fixed or whatever, I'll just take it to a bike shop. And, later on down the road there, but yeah, most of the time, man, it's just
what about the not only Saliva, Bobby and the guys, but Shinedown and Fuel. Who in any of those bands or any band in particular had one of those kind of unique little things that they did? I know that like with Shinedown, Barry's a big griller. Right.
Yeah.
And so he will grill for everybody at the festival. Very grill-esque.
Yeah. He's a hell of a chef besides grilling too. I mean, when we first got started in Shinedown, he made this salsa and I was like, dude, that was like the best salsa I ever had. And he taught me a lot actually, just in that one time watching him make it. And then I tried to take some of that in for my own salsa. But yeah. So early in the early days, we would grill. The problem with grilling on the road is someone has to clean that shit up. Like who's going to clean it all up after everyone's fat and happy? Like, oh, that was great. It was delicious. But now someone's got to deal with it.
Right.
Of course. Nowadays, they probably have staff specifically for that. I would imagine out there on the arena tours they're doing. But I mean, it's, so like quirky, like, so Sebastian out, with Saliva, he's got one of those scooters and he always will try to hit a gym, and I'll kind of do the same, man, because sometimes there may not be a shower at the venue, and you can hit a Planet Fitness, get a workout and a shower just about any town you're in. I mean, or if there's not hotels provided, or if the hotel's 10 miles away, you could try to find somewhere to get a shower or whatever.
So do you get the free day pass, or do they want to charge you when you go in?
Well, for Planet, I have the black card, so you can go to any one of them.
Any one of them. Oh,
yeah. God. So does he, and Sebastian's in pretty damn good shape. He's, but yeah, he's so when he was in Tantric, they all had scooters, right? It was kind of comical because they would ride around and they were like a bike gang, but only with electric scooters. That they had actually jailbroke. I think they sold the scooters or bought them from someone because they have those bird scooters. I think that's the brand, and maybe Uber owns them now or whatever. But they would all just cruise around on these scooters, man. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Just watching them.
Is there any town in particular that you go like, all right, we got the show. The show's going to be great, but it's not for a couple hours. I'm going to go buy a mountain bike or whatever. I got my bike under the bus, but I cannot wait to get to this city, this town, because I just love roaming around. There's some freaks out there.
Well, I don't know if I necessarily love the town that much. Sorry, but Portland, Oregon has a cool like bike friendly like route around the entire city, and we don't get out there that much. I mean, you might see a homeless person taking a shit right there on the street, and you just kind of keep going. That's kind of a normal thing there. They have those shit maps or turd maps. Remember, I don't know if you from San Francisco, they were talking about that. Where they have where homeless people have actually they map out where they've shit on this. Anyway, so I would say that part of the country, like the Pacific Northwest, is beautiful. Like and if I'm out there in any of those towns, like we'll do like we used to do. I guess it was Hayden, Idaho. So Coeur d'Alene is like, have you ever heard of Coeur d'Alene?
No.
It's like a resort community south of, it's kind of like, Idaho, Washington border. And that place is beautiful, man. And riding down there on my bike and just getting out of the situation, the show situation we're in, and just seeing stuff like that. Or anytime we're in Colorado or places like that, just where there's, I mean, it is a mountain bike. You want to have at least hills and shit. Like in Florida, the hills we have here are called bridges.
Or golf courses, right?
Right. Exactly.
So for the one-off shows for Saliva, I mean, you just fly into the city, right? There's no bus.
We do, but on this particular one in Iowa, we had our bus. So our bus lives in London, Kentucky, because we have a dear friend, Terry, that owns it's like an RV bus, like basically junkyard. So he has parts for buses and RVs, and it'll live there, and he'll work on the bus when we're not, if there's issues, when we're not, actually on the thing. So a lot of times if it makes sense for the bus to come to us and we have our own gear, we have our own lights, we don't have to rent gear and rely on other, X factors from popping up, we'll have the bus, someone will fly in and get the bus and drive it to us.
Do you have one bus driver?
We have multiple bus drivers. It just depends on who's available. I mean, during the summer, a lot of people are out doing stuff. So luckily, and actually Sebastian got his CDL. So our stage left guitar player, Sebastian Labar is Jeff Labar's son from Cinderella. So the late Jeff Labar, which God rest his soul, awesome dude. But so now Sebastian's doing double duty. He'll drive us and then sleep, and when he can, of course, all day or whatever, get up, play the show, and then drive us to the next spot. So,
I hope he gets paid more.
He gets paid more. He's got a baby on the way, and I he's trying to do what he can. So actually, in Burlington, he had taken a gig with driving Insane Clown Posse.
Really?
So he wasn't at that show with us. He'll be at the next one. We're doing our next show. It's like in the Seattle area. It's Shelton, Washington.
Yeah.
We definitely won't have the bus for that because driving, the gas and everything all the way out there. So that'll be on rental gear.
Yeah. And so you have these pop-up one-off shows for Saliva to the end of the year. And then what'd you say last episode you guys are working on a tour coming up, right?
There's going to be a headlining run, I believe, in August, and then we're going to do similar stuff. Actually on the bus. It's not just going to be one-off stuff, coming up in the fall and everything. It's being worked out. I think I mentioned that our agency had a tragedy. And so, whenever you now have like a new agent, even within the same agency, to set something like that up, you're probably at least 3 months out, because you got to figure out the routing. You got to put it out there. The agent puts it out there to, promoters in the area. Hey, Saliva's planning a tour. They're coming through. Here's what we have so far as the cities we're targeting. Make us an offer. And then they field the offer, and they sort of build this route of a tour. Right. And that's sort of how, these things can be done 6 months, a year in advance, whatever. It just depends. But now that we have a new agent who's a superstar, he's a great agent, but now he's stuck with the task of sort of picking up the pieces of what was already there. Like we already had anchor dates like Sturgis and some dates in August. So now he's going to try to connect the dots around those dates. That makes sense.
And as far as picking out other bands that will be on this tour, you guys just sit around and go, they would be good. They would be good.
We do. I mean, sometimes it's like, hey, let's see if whoever's available. And, like we did a lot of stuff with Drowning Pool somewhat recently, and that tour made sense for us. They were a good fit. We all sort of get along, and we would switch every night, either us or them as the headliner. So, but yeah, we'll sit around, or maybe the agent has somebody, and sometimes bands, up and coming bands, will buy onto the tour. So they'll work out a deal where it's like, all right, you know,
You should,
it's
like, one of the best shows that I've ever been to in my entire life of America. And for those that have listened to me for years, know that I always talk about this one show. It's at the Hard Rock Live in Orlando, Florida. And it was the Counting Crows. And I'd never seen the Counting Crows, and I love the Counting Crows. And I just remember the marketing for it was very circus-like, and I didn't pay much attention to it. And so Fronty was on the bill as well, a Sacramento guy. He had that one big hit, but he's kind of reggae-esque, poppy. Really, really talented guy. And then there was a rock band, and I always forget the rock band. I never remember the rock band, but they were very Fray-esque. And when the show started, all the instruments, like there was 2 drum kits there. I mean, there was, the whole entire stage was set with everyone's instruments. There's no real headliner. Like Adam Duritz would come out and sing with the bands. The other bands would come out, and it was like this orgy of music. And I just thought that was really creative. And I'm going, how in all these years we've had the same formula for concerts? You have curtain jerker opener, then you have middle band, and then you have headliner. What if and then most of the time for the curtain jerker, there's not a big crowd because nobody really knows who they are yet. But what if you just like, be there at 7, dude, we're starting. We're going to do a 4-hour show. Everybody's partying on stage. Like, the concept was brilliant. It's the only time I've ever seen it done.
I've never seen that done. That is pretty cool, man. I mean,
really cool.
So just like logistically getting that together where everyone knows when they're coming on stage, and they know the songs and the parts in 4 different bands. That's the hard part of that. Now, we've had it where we jam like a song with the bands on the tour, or someone comes up, sings, whatever. But man, getting that many people together for something like that had to have been a freaking couple weeks of pre-production. All of them together, maybe a month or something.
Who has one of the bands that you've been in invited up on stage and totally botched the performance because they didn't know the words?
Oh man, I don't know if anyone's really done that, man. We're pros out there, dude. You know what I mean? Like, I remember though, like, Sean from Seether would come up and do 45. Aaron Lewis would come up and do 45. I remember when Aaron came up there, he was so loud. Like, he was like, the way he projected into the microphone, it was like, it would take your face off, it'd take your ears. And I was like, holy shit, man. I mean, Brent projects, of course, too. He's a great singer, and he had a big voice. But that dude, I don't know, he had lungs. He came from way down below, man. Like, it was impressive. I had to pull I had to turn it down. Jesus, man, because I think he sang in one of the backup mics, and it was just like.
So he was drowning out Brent.
He was loud. Well, he would sing, they would switch, they would trade off. But just the level of it was pretty impressive. And because we had vocals, I believe early on, we didn't have it in the in-ears. We didn't use ears. We had it in the monitors. So it was across the stage, and we could hear it out front. And so you could just tell there was a pretty big difference in his level on the mic. It was pretty impressive. And he still has an amazing voice,
Yeah, and sometimes, it's not a good idea to bring people up on stage. I've seen, 2 great front guys, and they're, doing a song together because they're buddies, and it's good for the audience, but it'll make one of the other guys look really bad. It's just not the right song for them to sing, not their wheelhouse.
Yeah, and nowadays when everyone's got their cell phones up, it's like, oh man, now it's in infamy on the internet, and like, it can be, that can suck. I mean,
I always tell this story talking about this kind of thing was, this was like 2006 or 7. And I had met Brad Arnold of Three Doors prior, but I wasn't as close with him as I became afterwards. And it was 4th of July at the House of Blues in Orlando, and Poison was performing. All Poison was performing. And I, kind of befriended Brett Michaels, and I was with my buddy, Bubba Ray Dudley, the professional wrestler. And we're up in what's called the Loge, which is the upper tier seating. And Brett was like, he was doing this thing where, and he still does it on his Party Gras stuff, where he brings people up on stage at the end to sing Nothing But a Good Time. And so I had done it one time prior in St. Petersburg, doing radio in Tampa, and I botched it. I mean, I don't think people understand how difficult it is to be a front man and have like dance and I mean, it is tough. Like, I can work a crowd, and I've been doing it for 3 decades just on a microphone, but nonstop to dance around and sing and be entertaining is next level shit, dude. I mean, that is, you have to have this something about you. And, Brett's got it, obviously. I mean, he's got his thing. He does this, and all this stuff. So I'm going up on stage at the end, and I'm very excited. I want to redeem myself from St. Petersburg. And I noticed that Edwin McCain's there. I noticed that Brad Arnold's there, and he was like standing right next to me. I didn't recognize him. Brad always wears his hat properly down low. And I think Brad had partaken in a little of the devil's lettuce that night. And so we get out there, and for some reason, and at this time I was overweight. I was wearing an Affliction shirt. I was pale. I was miserable, but I'm out there drunk, having a good time. I'm center stage, stupid fat radio guy, surrounded by all these important people. And I'm center stage reliving the Nothing But a Good Time music video, because I'm just waiting to the end where they break it down, to this. And I noticed Brad is in the back by the drum kit, and every front man has got their front man thing. Brad Arnold's is, he kind of squats down, and he's got his hat down, and he does this, and that kind of thing. And I was like, come on up to the front, Brad. So I put my arm around him and bring him up, and there's this video's on YouTube. I won't watch it, but it's me, Brett, and Brad. We're singing together, and I noticed Brad doesn't know the words.
Oh man.
And I looked down and I was like, you don't know the words. And I always brought it up. Now, fast forward years later, lead singer of Lit, he's getting ready to go up on stage. And this was just a couple years ago. And I asked him, and I'd never met him before. Nicest guy in the world. But I said, hey, you know the words? Guys. Yeah. He goes, you know the words, right? He goes, fuck yeah, man. I grew up on this shit.
Yeah, dude.
I was like,
AJ Popoff. Yeah, those guys are great. We did some tour with them back in the Fuel days, and we did Shiprocked and stuff with them. They're good lads.
Nicest guys in the world. Taylor and Jeremy
yeah, and
dude, so cool. You think about bands like that don't get enough credit. Lit, I think you could put in the top 10, definitely top 25 most recognizable riffs of a song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're
fun band, like, to watch, and this, they do some cool stuff on stage and everything. They're it's not, I don't want to call them a party band, but they're fun to just kind of like, they get it going, man.
Total party band. But like Guns N' Roses, Sweet Child of Mine, obviously one of the most recognizable riffs ever. Right. Yeah. I mean, you just need the first millisecond. Lit, you could put in there, right? My Own Worst Enemy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I don't think it gets credit. And, you look at bands from the early 2000s, like the Salivas and the Shinedowns and the Godsmacks and stuff like that. Unfortunately, those weren't really heavy. The guitar days had kind of passed by, unfortunately. Would you agree with that?
Definitely the day of the guitar solo.
Right.
I mean, like, kind of, the grunge thing, and then I guess there was the new metal thing. They didn't really solo a lot. I mean, it was just kind of like cool, like color, weird parts on the guitar and effecty kind of stuff. And that kind of transcended into our stuff. I mean, which I guess Shinedown could have been considered post-grunge. Fuel, kind of the same thing, where you're not like every band in the 80s had this guitar player that everyone was talking about, this new band that had this guitar player that just did sweep arpeggios and shredded the shit out of the guitar. I mean, Van Halen probably started some of that part in the late 70s, and that kind of bled into the 80s, and the Steve Vais of that time, and the Satrianis, and just of course, I mean, there's just a lot of really great guitarists back then. But I think when Nirvana came out, and which Alice in Chains, I don't know, Alice in Chains, Jerry put solos in their music, and I thought they were tasteful and quite amazing and memorable. I mean, and they were a grunge band, but I mean,
Yeah, but
I guess it kind of fell out of favor, man. It wasn't like a thing where we have to have the guitar solo in the song, or it's not going to be a song at that point,
well, that's radio's fault because they wanted all the songs shorter,
That's
so
true.
and then you go to the label, say, hey, we can't, you can't have a minute and a half guitar solo. Those days are done. Metallica, the only ones that are allowed to do it. And I remember
or Pantera too. I mean, Dime had some badass solos.
Yeah, but Pantera was never a big radio band.
No, that's true.
Metallica was. I remember the first time that I heard the guitar solo come back was Tremonti and Alter Bridge and their first song. And I did their first interview, and it was like VH1 came down and did this whole thing. And I remember bringing that up, and I said, one thing that stands out is that you guys had the balls to put in a guitar solo. I mean, or a long, at least, guitar run in the song. And we talked like for 30 minutes about that, I think, because I just thought that was cool. I think there's something special. You talk about Cantrell and Alice in Chains. Yeah, very tasteful. And I think it helps make those songs, but it wasn't the steady of the song. You look at GNR, and even Lit, if you're going to compare the riffs, that riff kind of stands out over the song almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's tough, man, because the song has to make sense, right? All the parts have to make sense. And if there is a guitar solo, it has to be tasteful, and it has to fit the song. And in a lot of cases, like you're saying with Alice, it was very brief, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was not like a large part of the song, or sometimes there wasn't even one in there. It's kind of hard. I think you have to take it with the producer and a song to song basis as to what if it's going to fit right in the song, or if it needs it. Because a lot of times in Shinedown, we'd have a middle eight or a bridge section, but it would be Brent singing, and it would be like a lift in the song where the vocal kind of stood out, and then when you went back into that last two choruses, or the last double chorus, it was just ripping at that point, because the song had that other place to go, that wasn't a guitar solo. So that's kind of how we approached it. Although, like in Lost in the Crowd on the first record, Leave a Whisper, that's got a solo in it. It's pretty cool solo, and Heroes had one on the second record. I mean, there's definitely songs that had them in there, but it wasn't like every song had to have that in it,
But when you guys in Shinedown performed live, there was more guitar in the songs. Because I remember, like, especially with Simple Man, Jason would come out at the time, and he would just play, it was really cool. That was when he had the Stars and Bars guitar.
Oh boy. Yeah. The thing was with that is he was shouldering a lot of guitar parts as one guy. We didn't run tracks on that record, and cycle. So, I mean, it was, when, especially the songs we did with Bob, there was a lot of guitar work going on, but, Jason didn't have a loop pedal or anything. He was sort of just trying to play the parts that made the best sense. And it was like Pantera, though. I mean, when Dime would solo, a lot of times there was no rhythm guitar happening. It was just Rex and Vinny, just bass and drums, and he'd solo. But the bass and the drums sounded so good, it didn't matter, I thought, it's a fucking killer,
Yeah, to sit there and watch that. It's fascinating, to kind of get the behind the scenes perspective of some of these on stage guys doing what they do. So I wanted to bring this up to you, and I don't want to take a side on it. I mean, if you listen to the BS podcast, I take more of a side, but I make fun of what has gone on in the world over this week. But as far as this podcast goes and rock and roll, you as an artist, Brad, do you think that rock stars should get involved in politics?
I'd say generally speaking, no. I mean, it's just, first of all, it's hard enough to gain a fan base and have them be loyal to the brand and to the sound and to the people involved. But to sort of, when you take a stand, I just feel like it can be divisive and unnecessary. I mean, you can keep your political stuff to yourself. Now, I mean, if you're Tom Morello, though, and you have a degree in political science, you're from Harvard, and and your band was basically built on rebellion and anti-establishment, and I mean, he's got a background, and that's what his band really stood for, and stood against oppression, and that was the content of the lyrics, and Che Guevara and all these radicals and these things that were happening in their music and their subject matter. Didn't make sense. But I mean, if you're Taylor Swift, or if you're like a super duper pop star that can't even possibly relate to what's happening in the real world, you're that rich or you're that like level, I think it's kind of a kick in the nuts for normal people, because now you're watching them weigh in on situations and on policies that either don't affect them at all, so or where they live. And that's one thing about being a musician. Like, we travel around the country, if not around the world, and we see people in different situations, and we see different policies in different areas, and we see them not working. And then we see other areas where it is working, and it's a different side in that area usually. So, it's a little tough for me. But like I said, I mean, if people, I remember back when Eddie Vedder and like, Pearl Jam, they started getting, they had a voice, and they had their politics that they, subscribed to and everything. And when he started doing that, I saw people just some people were like, oh yeah, they're drinking the Kool-Aid. They're in it. Whatever Eddie says, man, let's go. A Ticketmaster, fuck them. All this, whatever, this other shit. But it just started to be like, man, is that something you all need to be focusing on? How about write some killer songs, get out there and kick some ass live and meet the fans and have some fun? Because otherwise, now you're going to have protests and just people, I don't know. I guess it could go back even as far as the Beatles. John Lennon, I mean, he got like killed over that shit.
Yeah.
I mean, that was some dark shit. I mean, and God only knows, in my head, I don't think that was really just a random fan. That to me was some brainwashing program shit. That guy, that was something that was, I feel like he was targeted and killed, honestly, because of he had a voice, and it was pissing people off that were in there against what he was saying, like peace and love and let's stop the war and all that. I mean, it can get weird, man, right? I mean,
it gets real weird. I mean, you bring up the Pearl Jam and when they became political, and like the Tom Morello stuff, and you go, okay, Rage has always been rebellious, Green Day rebellious, against a machine. But over time, like, the machine has become very gray. And what is the machine, and what side are you rebelling against based off of, like, it should always be whoever's in power, not just the people that you don't like in power. Raging against the machine is not a specific machine. It is the machine.
Correct.
So it's a little confusing, right? I'm not a fan of it at all. It's just,
I think too, like, people are really either misinformed or uninformed, and whenever they see headlines and they start weighing in on things that they haven't done their own research about, I feel like now you're taking a little bit of information and you're sort of making generalizations that may not be, in fact, reality. It was something that was spoon-fed to you, and you also have to look at who owns these outlets for the news, and like, who is behind what they're focusing on. You know what I mean? It was like, once when the thing in Maui happened and it was a tragedy and everyone's freaking out, and it's like, holy shit, man. And then all of a sudden, what happened in Maui? Where's the Maui people? Are they okay? We don't even know if they're okay. They kicked everyone out of the scene. And then next thing you know, the hurricane comes through and fucks up North Carolina and Tennessee. And then that's a thing for a second. And then all of a sudden, no one's focusing on that anymore. And then now the wildfires come through and they hit LA. And that's a thing for a second. But what happened? What's the backstory on some of that shit too? And why did the insurance companies cancel people? And why was there no water? And it's making people look really bad. But the people that was made to look bad were people on a certain side of the fence, and the people controlling what's being reported about those people decided not to report on it anymore. And that's what I'm talking about. That's where it gets to be like, okay, that's kind of bullshit, because Now you're protecting people that fucked up. They made mistakes. And when you're protecting people that made mistakes and not, and you know, because if that would have been on the other side of the coin, we'd never hear the fucking end of that shit, bro. You know that. I mean, so, and not to choose sides, I'm usually pretty much in the middle of things, depending on the situation. But you got to read through the bullshit on either side, man. I mean, because you know, there's bullshit in any presidency, any Republican or Democrat or any political situation. There's going to be some bullshit, right? I mean, and some corruption and I mean, it's just kind of how you expect that, you know. It's just how it is. You know?
Yeah, I don't understand why rock stars are willing to give up a loyal fan base in order to speak their mind, which could possibly change at any point in time. Like the dude from Red Jumpsuit Apparatus. I don't know who the guy is, but he goes on social media and is like, if you voted for Trump, don't come to my shows. And I'm like, what does that have anything to do with them wanting just to listen to some music? You're going to be losing a lot of money. Fuck money. Don't need money. Okay. What's a business? That's why you're doing it.
You know, oddly enough, they're from the area. They're from Middleburg, actually. Ronnie is from the same area as Ronnie Van Zant from Skinnerd. So, you know, the Jacksonville, like kind of Orange Park, Middleburg. And I know Ronnie a little bit, man. I did some touring when between, I guess it was Shinedown and Fuel. Bobby and I had a band called Amaru, and we did a tour with those guys, like an acoustic tour. And, you know, it was fun and everything. And I actually had to leave the tour to go fill in for Saliva back then. This was 2008. So, yeah. So for him it's kind of odd for me to see him do that because, I mean, I don't think that the band currently is at a place in their career where to make a stand like that, I mean, it's going to divide people and it's not really going to solve anything, right? Trump's in there for another several years. I mean, this is just the beginning of things. So that's not going to change. So what are you really saying that's you're making a statement, but in effect, you're almost stepping on your own cock. You know what I mean? Because you're not really gaining fans, I wouldn't imagine, by saying that. I mean, and if anything, you're probably alienating some people, and you're from the South in an area where there's a lot of red going on there, bro. So, I mean, you know, maybe that's not the way that their fans react across the nation or across the world, but or whatever their affiliations are. But again, alienating people, and it's like, and regardless, I mean, when is he going to interact with those people that feel that way at the show? You know what I mean? He's up there on the microphone and he's singing the songs. It's not like he's out there having a fucking what's it called, a round table debate discussion on these things. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's a little weird to take that stance against people you don't know. And how do you not know their background and their opinion? And how do we get to the point where we can't even discuss these things? It's like you just can't even enter the building if you feel this way, you know? And how do we get to that fucking point, man? You know?
And that's what he's doing. Unfortunately, you know, even Roger Waters, you know, goes up there and that's the thing that I hate about this whole back and forth, right and left stuff is that, you know, I have friends on social media that'll say, unfriend me. I hate you if you even think this. And I'm like, we've been cool for like 30 years, dude. And now you're telling me like directly because you're angry always, you know, kind of messes with your head and makes you make stupid decisions. But Kid Rock, you know, it doesn't get as more conservative and right as Kid Rock, but you go to a Kid Rock show, he jokes about it. You know, he said, he brings it up. He talks about it. He says, look, you know, world's a crazy place. You guys know where I stand, but I'm happy everybody's here because tonight we celebrate rock and roll. You know, and then he'll make jokes like, hopefully you'll like the show enough that you'll start listening to me or so, you know, but he's not saying, if you don't believe me, I don't want you at my show. That's bad business.
It is bad business. It really is. And the business is a tough business. So, but he's at a level too, where he doesn't even have to tour. I mean, that guy's, he was one of the guys in the Atlantic offices that had the diamond, the 10 million seller. I mean, I don't know if you've seen his house in Nashville. It's pretty impressive. It's like this, I know people that I don't know him personally, but I know my buddy Meltdown up in Detroit on the riff up there. He's bros with him and he'll go down and visit him and stuff. And I just know people that are bros with him, but did you see his outfit that one time when he was up there? Yeah, Evil Knievel, dude. I was like, fuck, where did he get it, man? That's killer. I was waiting for him to get on that motorcycle and fucking jump something, man, or something, bro. That was classic.
I love Kid Rock. I have a picture here in the Golden Scissor Studios of me and Kid Rock at the grand opening of the pool at the Hard Rock Hotel in Orlando. And he's drinking a Bud Light and he's got a tank top on, and I'm a baby and he's a baby, and I've interviewed him a couple times and met his backstage meet and greets are bologna sandwiches and beers. It's awesome. Like, everything about what he does is awesome because he sticks to his guns and he doesn't give a shit. You know what I mean? I like that, but if you disagree with him, just as long as you don't come at him, he's still cool, man. I mean, it's like, hey man, it's like, what are we doing? We talking about rock and roll? Let's talk about rock and roll. I don't care where you stand politically. Let's just talk about rock and roll. But now if you want to get up in my face, then I'm going to defend myself.
Absolutely.
That's what I love about him. But these other guys, Tom Morello, is I think an anomaly and special case. I don't think he gets a pass, but it's not like he just jumped on this bandwagon. Amy Lee goes out there again. Love Amy Lee. That's fine. You have every right to do this, but the red jumpsuit apparatus guy, like, why so angry? I mean, when the red jumpsuit apparatus guy went on a social media and says, hey, look, if you like Trump, don't come to my shows. All I could think of was, what are the other guys in your band thinking right now? Like, dude, you just took money out of our pockets, dick. Like, how would you feel, Brad?
Well, and also, I think they're recently they're like making a play at like Christian rock and Christian radio fans, jumpsuits. So I'm like, last time I checked, they're wearing a bunch of, I can't go there. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Like I'm pretty sure Trump talks about God and Jesus and stuff, but they're trying to like, it seemed as if they were trying to break into that Christian market, but then they're alienating Christians in that regard, right? Because the Christians, Trump's about the Jesus Christ and stuff. So at least he is now. Maybe he hasn't always been. Maybe he's been redeemed and he's been saved, or I mean, who knows? But I mean, he was saved. He almost got shot in the face. I mean, and that would make me super religious at that point, or at least spiritual or something. I'd be like, thank you, God, or the aliens, or somebody fucking looking after a motherfucker. Like that's something that you can't even like script. I mean, how in the fuck would you script some shit like that?
I don't know, unless you're really good and you had a blood pouch on the ear or something.
I heard that story too. Of course. Oh, no, I'm shot. I mean, but meanwhile, there's a sniper and there's no one covering that area. I don't know, man. There's some bullshit going on with that thing.
We were talking about that the other day on one of the BS episodes. There's just something weird about that. I mean, for decades, longer, we talk about Lincoln's assassination. Like, Booth, like, the name, the Ford Theater, the details.
Right.
JFK, Dallas, Depository, Ruby and Hinckley, all the players, right?
Right.
Oswald, all the players.
The lone gunman, the grassy knoll gunman. The gunman in the sewer and then the guy they had to kill to make look like JFK. How far have you gone into the JFK thing, man? That's some crazy shit with that.
I'm a big JFK my uncles babysat his kids. They were U.S. Marshals.
Oh wow.
We had Clint Ford in the studio years ago. He was one of the guys on detail when Kennedy was shot. Dude, I'm so my point is we know all this stuff about all these assassinations. There's only been a few public assassinations with presidents. No one can name the name of the kid that tried to take out Trump. No, his body was burned, incinerated, like immediately after, and it just went away. Something is so weird about that whole thing. Like, you talk about Lincoln, you talk about JFK, you talk about Martin Luther King, you know about these assassinations. Nobody even knows this kid's name.
I don't know.
Weird, right?
That's weird. Very strange. And that was the only one that the media, there's so many Trump rallies, and that was the only one where they had cameras directly on his face, like covering it. I'm like, that's the one y'all chose to cover, is the one he gets shot at? Come on, man. Like national, I'm talking about national,
Yeah.
That's just something odd about that, where they tipped off. I mean, there's some weird shit with that, man.
And we live in a social media world, and the assassination during a social media world, and the dude, his family. I mean, you think of it, you see one guy that does something like even these protests, there are people go after him, and then the internet will just rail their families and their jobs, and they'll just dig in and they'll destroy these people. No mention of the kid's family, his job, his schooling, his friends, his pets, nothing, zero.
Well, remember, it was initially reported that he fell down. I mean, they were like, well, no, he fell down at the rally. No, he was shot at. I mean, that ain't falling down, bro. There's a sniper on the roof. There's people telling the cops, hey, there's a dude up there fucking filming him do the shit, like climb the thing. And I'm sitting there going, how is this? He would have been, I don't know, man.
Did you see the video of one of the protests? This kid, I call them these GameStop kids. That's that generation. And he goes to the protest and he's got a rifle in his bag. And then the peaceful protesters who don't want this shit around them, they spot it, and they're all like kind of hanging out under this overpass. And one of the good protesters, the peaceful protesters, goes over to the bag. And it was like the worst nonchalant pickup of a bag ever. Like, and he grabs a bag, and then he comes over and this guy's got a rifle. This guy's got a rifle, and I've got it right here. But everybody saw it, and the dude's just like, "Oh man, you took my bag with the rifle. That sucks, dude." So you have to go to jail. None of the bands that you've been in had any political motivation up on stage. Nobody ever spoke out. It was never a Brent thing.
No, not at all, man. I mean, it just wasn't the time or the place to do it from the microphone on the stage. I mean, now we did go in 2006. We went to, it was a USO trip. We went to Iraq and Kuwait in Shinedown when I was still in the band. And so I don't know if that would be misconstrued as supporting one side or the other, but we were supporting our military and the folks that are dying for our country to give us our freedoms and stuff. And to truth be told, I was scared, man. We had, my wife and I had our first son that November before that, and we were going November 2006. And I was like, man, they're still fighting the war. It's not like the war's ended. I mean, like we went to Fallujah, and they had just retaken, like they tried to take Fallujah and it didn't happen. They had to retreat and back out of there. And then they went back though and got it. So when we're in Iraq, I'm like, we're flying and we took different modes of transportation. Sometimes we had like the two bladed helicopters, Chinooks, and we had Huey gunships. And the guys in the Chinook, we had one of them had our gear and the other one had us, and they had 50 calibers with the belt coming out. I mean, it was intense. We all had helmets and full flak gear, the whole shit. I mean, there was still war going on there, and we were over there playing for them. And we did Camp Buring, Talcadam, Fallujah, and Al Assad. And the further we got in country, the accommodations kept changing, right? So when we're on the border, it's like a man-made base, Camp Buring. That's where everyone went to cross the border and to go in country before they go, and they could potentially be killed. So the people, you're in the, I don't know if they call it the mess hall or whatever, but we're eating, and people are walking around and they're just like zombies, dude. They're visibly shaken, either because they just got out of serving or they're about to go and figure it out, And so that was though like a man-made base. They had brought in all the gear and the equipment, and then as we got to the other spots, there were typically an Iraqi base that we had taken over, and so sometimes we'd be sleeping in this, like homemade wooden shed on wooden, bunks. Like it was pretty primitive as we got further into the shit, And there was one base, I can't remember if it was Fallujah, but we had played the show and we're sitting there eating, and all of a sudden the alarms start going off, and the guys that are in there, the soldiers are watching us like, are they going to jump under the tables and hit the deck because they're scared or whatever? And we didn't. We just kind of looked and we're like, okay, what's happening again? Like, are we getting shot at? What the fuck? So it was actually there was some, it was outgoing, I guess. They were shooting at somebody just outside the base, but we were just like, man, we didn't see anyone else scared or running or taking cover or anything, but it was different, man. I mean, we were very close to where things were happening. And then there was a base, maybe it was Talcadum, where they brought in, they call them angels. When someone would die out there in the field, and they had brought an angel in, and man, that was tough to see.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know?
Yeah. You always, I always wondered, when artists go overseas and they play, I'm going, God, you're flying right into a war zone. Like, one, you just got to get there first and foremost. You got to get in. And then I start to think, I'm like, I wonder if there's an open line of communication between the United States and, let's say it's Iraq or whoever it is that we're fighting at the time, and says, hey, look, guys, you're going to have to give us about 48 hours. We got the guys in Shinedown coming in, and that would be just bad news, because I've never heard of a celebrity or an artist getting killed during a time of war going to, a USO tour. Never heard of one.
Well, they did make us feel very safe. I mean, even like flying in and out of Kuwait, which was kind of funny when we flew into Kuwait. Most of the Kuwaitis, well, I guess all of them, they don't work. They get from the oil, like, and oil's like, or gas per gallon over there was like 9 or 10 cents a gallon. Meanwhile, we're paying. It was ridiculous, right? So the Kuwaitis outsource all of the jobs. So they're rolling up in their Lamborghinis and everything, the sheikhs and stuff, and they had, at least when we were there was a lot of Indian. That was the staff of the airport, and we're like, well, so it was interesting because we were like, well, did the Kuwaitis not have jobs? And they're like, well, no, they hire, they hired out. So one of the Indian guys looked at me and my dreads, and he goes, what is your hair? And I go, what do you mean, man? There's dreadlocks. He goes, this is very mysterious. And I was like, what does that mean, dude? I don't know, man. Just trying to. But anyway, the USO guys like surrounded us and shit. And I remember on our way out, flying out of Kuwait, I guess we flew commercially in and out of the area. They searched. Went through like at least 3 checkpoints trying to get to the airplane, right? And at the last checkpoint, the guy finds a shell casing in Brent's bag that one of the soldiers had given to Brent. And it's like a souvenir take home thing to remember him by, which they gave us all kinds of stuff. Hats. We had our own camouflage, the gear they wear and stuff they gave us. They were so good to us, man. But it kind of became a scene. Like, have you ever seen Argo?
Yes.
It kind of felt like that, dude. Like, they were like, what is this? And we were like, dude. And so the USO guys were there, and they were like, take it easy. It's just it's not a live round, But I look at Brent, and I mean, we all just turned like white because we were like, man, if they detain him, man, that's brutal, dude. Like, it's gonna be terrible. So, thankfully, those guys, like I was saying, they weren't letting shit happen to us, man. They were like, not on our watch, and they argued with them, and they basically were like, just fucking put it over there, man, and throw it in the garbage. Just let it go, and they let us on the airplane, but.
So
that was one of those things where it got, because at that point, USO or not, that's not our country.
Right. What you're saying is World War III could have started with the arrest of Brent Smith of Shinedown.
For a freaking, a shell casing. I mean, it could have. I mean, maybe. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, if they would have, detained him, it would have definitely been an international incident, I would imagine, because he didn't really do anything wrong. And, we were just trying to honor our guys and take their, whatever they gave us to take home with them. I still have that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
They gave us medals, the coins. Do you ever get the coins they give out? The military makes these coins, and it's like kind of a thing for them to, you honor them by going to play for them, and they honor you back by, it's like a thank you. But I got a whole like a shadow box my wife made me of my Iraq trip, and it's got the coins, cool. And the soldiers would give us their patches and stuff, and they would sign. I have one of the soldiers, he gave me one of their hats, and they signed the hats.
That's cool.
They're like Ranger hats and stuff. Man, it was cool, dude. And we would sit there after our set, and we would sign autographs for, I'm sitting there and I'm like, the line of soldiers, and a lot of them were coming back and forth, in and out because they were on duty and stuff. And I was like, I said to one of the USO people, I was like, are they just going to wait in line for that long? That's a long time to wait. They're like, no, they're used to waiting in line. They wait in line to shit. They wait in line to shower. They wait in line for food. They wait in line. They're used to it. It's okay. Whatever. So they were all super cool to us and everything. And, that was an experience I'll never forget. It was amazing. And so that was the 131st birthday of the Marine Corps. And, over in those countries, at least in Iraq, alcohol is almost like forbidden.
Right.
Like it's a thing, but each Marine was allowed to have 2 beers. And so most of them didn't drink anyway, so they gave us their beer. Because I think we were having withdrawals.
What kind of beer was it? Was it American beer?
It was American beer. No, damn, I can't remember. I can't remember. It might have been Heineken or something.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't like an off-brand from somewhere.
No. It was definitely a brand that we recognize for sure.
Right. Yeah. I know that over the years in radio, especially during those days, it got weird, where people thought, well, if you supported the military, I mean, it still is like that. You support the military, you support a certain party and this and that, which is absurd, ridiculous, and just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But these soldiers over there, they have what are called entertainment tents, where they, when they're not out in field, they come in and they play Xbox or PlayStation and stuff like that. And so when I found out about this, and I was working with a couple different organizations, one being Operation Shoebox, is that I started doing these radio thing, through my radio show. I would collect old video games and all these different things that they wanted for these entertainment tents, and candy is really important to soldiers, because when they go into these towns, in order to be in the good graces of the kids, they hand out candy. So during Halloween, I remember every year I would, say, hey, look, any leftover Halloween candy you don't want, give it to me. Then there was an organization that shipped all this candy over to the soldiers. And some of these soldiers would call me, or if they would come back into town, or they'd write me letters and say, you have no idea that this candy saved our lives, because the kids were tipping us off to where the bad guys were for an extra piece of candy. Because they don't, they can't just go to the 7-Eleven up the street and get candy. So they're getting the candy from the soldiers, and this is like the treat of all treats. And all you got to ask them is like, hey, where's the bad guy with the gun? And they're like, over there. And like, here's the candy. The sniper
or whoever. Yeah, that's genius. Actually, I mean, it's so simple, but that's so effective, I would imagine, But that's scary, because some of those same kids, like in Vietnam, had a doll, and they didn't know it, that was strapped to them, and it blew them up. I mean, so hopefully they had good kids coming for the candy.
Yeah. Candy. Yeah. See, people think candy's bad for you, but in certain cases, candy's good for you. All right, let's get some questions for Brad. Now, look, let's start doing this. For those that are listening, every week, we'll grab a couple questions from social media. I'm going to start posting them on my personal at Mr. Jason Bailey and at Listen to the BS. But Brad, has been posting them on his, and then we'll grab those questions there. Just, we'll make a new post each and every week, and then I'll go and I'll pick out a few. If you want to directly send them to me via my social media, that's fine. All that information is on thebaileyshow.com. All right. This is from Eric Colangelo. Colangelo, I believe. Questions for Brad Stewart. What's your favorite part about being a touring musician? Favorite part?
My favorite part, the show. I mean, if the show is the payoff, and hopefully it's a good show and nothing goes wrong, and you can have fun and the crowd's into it, and that's the release. That's sort of the reason why you do it. The connection, the energy of the crowd and the exchange. I mean, you wait around all day for that part.
Yeah. You also asked, what's the scariest thing? And I'm assuming the USO tour was probably the scariest thing, right?
That was quite scary. I remember one time in Saliva, we were on our way to Sturgis to play the bike rally there, and it was someone's in the band's genius idea to take an RV instead of a bus. So we're in the RV, and I look out the right side, and there's this wild horse coming up the hill right next to the road, right towards us. And I'm like, holy shit. And this thing was massive. This wasn't like some pony. It was a big ass horse. And he starts galloping next to us. And I'm like, oh God, dude, slow down. Because if this thing cuts in front of us, it's going to be like hitting a moose in Alaska or something, man. It's going to be bad for everybody, including the horse. So the thing kind of just looks over at us, and he's galloping, and he's just ripping. and then he goes right back down down the hill. Man, that was scary because you're just in your mind, you're picturing the things that could have happened.
Right.
You know, and you don't want to hurt the thing, but of course you're like, man, that could have got weird real quick if he just made a left turn. We'd have been screwed. It would have T-boned him, you know.
But you've never been on a festival where there's been a shooting like the one in Vegas a couple years back or anything like that?
No, thank God, no.
Yeah.
That would be terrifying though, especially as a performer, or what happened over what was it in France?
Oh, yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. Well, what was that? A Lady Gaga had a bomb threat. Like they found the guy that did the one in Vegas, the country music show. My best friend was shot at. He was there. He's friends with Aldean's wife, Brittany. They were roommates prior to them getting married. And he's a DJ, or he just moved back to Florida, but he was a big DJ in Vegas. And he and a buddy they were just going to say hi to Aldean's wife. And as soon as he walks in, that's when that dude started unloading. Like he could feel the bullets whizzing by him. I mean, he's still got PTSD from it. I mean, that was scary.
That's frightening. I mean, that's unacceptable, honestly, too, that even happened. I mean, honestly, that this security in those hotels, that should have been. There's some red flags there. If you did see like how they were able to pull that off. I mean, I don't know, dude.
That's, going back to what we were talking about before about rock stars being, political. Like I've got no problem with people speaking their mind, but as time goes on, the game changes and so do the rules. And I think if you go back to the basics and you look at it like a rock and roll show, a concert should be a sanctuary for everybody. And there should not be divide. And because everybody's there for one reason and one reason only. And that's just to forget about the real world and get lost in the music. The gym, I had an issue some years ago with a woman at the gym that was just political, like out loud. And I'm going like, you got to stop this. This is the gym. This is a sanctuary of everybody, no matter what you believe in, what you look like, who you worship. You should be able to come here without any judgment. That's what a gym is. That's what a rock and roll show should be. So that's the reason why I have a problem with it, because, if you have a fan of Pearl Jam, or you have a fan of Rage or Red Jumpsuit Apparatus or whatever, pick your band, Kid Rock, and you come to that show and you have a difference of opinion, but you still love that music, you should be able to enjoy that music and that artist without being shamed by that artist up on stage. It's tough to love something when you're being shamed. You know what I mean?
It really is. I mean, that's kind of an odd position to take for someone that paid and bought the t-shirt, paid for your, they paid to get into your show and they're a fan of your band. And who knows how much time and effort of their person they've spent on you and your lyrics and your band. And they've connected to it, obviously, because they're showing up and regardless of their beliefs, you're right. I mean, that should be a non-factor. Let's leave that at the door and like come enjoy the show. And then when you want to pick it back up outside or however you want to do it, I think a game changer was the Dimebag situation too, as far as safety on stage.
Yeah,
at Al Rosavilla. I mean, at that time we had Guy Sykes as our tour manager, and he tour managed Pantera, right? So we're playing the Starland Ballroom in Jersey. And Damage Plan is in Columbus playing Alrosa, and we were like on tour at the same time. So we would play a place, and they were about to play it, or they were playing a place we just played. So we had just played Alrosa actually. So we come off stage at the Starland, and Guy is just a mess, and he told us what happened, and because he has obviously direct contact with them and their crew, and he was super tight with Vinny. And just the whole band and everything. So yeah, I mean, it was when that happened, I was like, that changed a lot, because now nowhere is safe to play, and no matter what band or what level. I mean, Alrosa is not a very big place. It's not a huge venue. It's not a big festival situation. It's a club essentially, or concert hall. So, man, I think that kind of, for me, and now I get why there's security. There always needs to be a certain level of security for any band, regardless of your political affiliation or if you're political at all, because there's some nuts out there that have an issue,
mm-hmm.
That might react to it, or might have been planning something against you. You just don't know, man. Like, people are
Yeah.
fucked.
It would terrify me to be in your shoes or anybody else that does what you do. I mean, let's just say the majority of the week you're on tour in a different crowd, in a different city, and you're doing what you're doing. And in the back of your mind is you're always thinking of that safety factor. So, you're keeping an eye out, which then distracts you from doing what you do best. And that's be a musician. And so that sucks that you even have to have that mindset now. Like, you really have to train yourself to let it go, I'd think.
And it's tough too, because, and at least for me, my in-ear mix, these are sound canceling ears. So if someone's popping off, I mean, it's loud in my ears, so if someone's popping off a machine gun, I might not even know what's happening until it's scary, dude. It's just, how do you prepare for something like that? And you hope that someone takes them out before it happens. But I mean, do they? I mean, they maybe on their phone looking at Facebook. Or are they even qualified as security people? Or are they someone's friend that's trying to act like that? I mean, I don't know. I have some friends that are in security. Richie, seriously, Big Richie.
Yeah.
I know you've interviewed him before, but I mean, he has his hands full with that sort of thing, whether he's doing personal or doing venue security, because he's having to direct these folks. And thankfully, if it's a big enough show and venue, they have metal detectors, and they even have snipers at some of these things at this point, but did it really have to come to that? I mean, it's kind of weird. Well, it's a freaking rock show, dude. I mean, I know,
I wonder, with this world that we live in, if there are any rock stars that carry while they're on stage.
I don't know that they carry, but I do know that they'll, in like our guitar boat, and also on our bus, we carry. I mean, when Chris Lafferty drove us for years, his company, and he's got a bunch of buses, but we'd always be like, all right, Chris, where's your gun? If he'd get off the bus to go to the hotel, and he's like, bottom bunk, front, driver's side, front. Right. And there was always a gun, at least with him. There was because, I mean, dude, some freak can come on there. Mm. And maybe they're armed, maybe they have a knife. We don't know. I mean, if they could just roll up on the bus, and you better have something, or you better be able to kick some ass, because.
But on stage, I bet you there are artists that somehow have a gun on stage.
I wouldn't doubt that, man. I mean, for me, I move around a lot. That might get a little dangerous if the thing pops off, and it might shoot me or somebody else. But if you're just standing there looking at your shoelaces, and I mean, maybe it'll work for you, and you just have it in your back. I don't know, but
where we start to see like these different mic stands where they're thicker, where you could have a gun in your mic stand. I mean, that's not a bad idea. I bet you that would be a pretty popular thing to do, is to have one of those. There'd be artists that would probably do it too.
What was that Kevin Hart bit when he's talking about he's got one in the dryer, and he's like, I don't know if you ever saw it. It's fucking hilarious, dude. But he's got a gun planted all over the house, in case anyone fucks with him.
Another question for Brad. Vincent Werner. I'd like to hear the story of how Peter Thornton put you all together and made things happen from the beginning, how each member found their place in Shinedown and where they came from. Super nostalgic. Or how Fuel found you, because those were some great shows, hearing you and them play together. So the Shinedown thing, I mean, you want to brief? I think most people know the story, right?
Keep it brief, man. That's a big question, because there was a lot that went on as far as developing that band and forming it. But short story. So I know Vince. He's a friend of mine. We went to grade school together here in Jacksonville. That's how the Pete Thornton connection too. We all went to St. Joseph's out in Mandarin. And Pete ended up becoming a producer, and he produced some of the demos for Limp Bizkit and Cold, and he worked with Rob Thomas, and he and I were, like I said, childhood friends. We would skateboard together, and so I had just co-written "Control" by Puddle of Mud. So that song's going up the charts. It's considered a hit. That band's going to sell 4 or 5 million records. It was known that they were going to break that band. So in that, so Pete knew Brent's A&R guy, Steve-O. And Pete was actually playing me some of Brent's early demos, and I was like, dude, who is this guy? I got to meet this guy. He said, I love Chris Cornell. I thought he kind of sounded like Chris. Anyhow, so Pete ends up setting up a meeting, and Brent and I we get to write together, right? And so we wrote Falling Fearless, a song called Play the Part. We demoed it out at Made in the Shade, the studio Pete was working out of, which was owned by Judy Van Zant, of course, Ronnie Van Zant's widow from Skinner. So we wrote the songs, and then I tried to bring in some of my friends into the fold to possibly be the guitar player and the drummer. They didn't work out, Brian and T-Bone, and so Jason happened to be Jason Todd, of course. He was in a relationship with Melody Van Zant, and they had a daughter together. And Jason was in a band called Nefarian. So Jason and Brent meet, and they become like, one day they don't know each other. The next day, you'd think it was like stepbrothers. They knew each other somehow in another life or some shit, man. They were like birds of a feather, man. They just clicked as people, right? So I mean, and I'm keeping this super brief. A lot of shit happened in the middle of all this. I mean, so we had the three of us. It was me, Jason, and Brent, and so we were kind of on the hunt for a drummer, right? So what we would do is we would have drummers come in, and basically their audition was demoing a song in the studio with us and with Pete or another producer. A lot of times it was Pete. Tony Battaglia produced some of the demos. And so we went through like 6 drummers, and we were like, dude, this sucks, man. Are we ever going to find anyone that fits the band, that works, whatever? So Chumley, who's on the radio, I know you know Chad Chumley, Kirch, his brother is Barry Kirch. Yeah. And so Barry knows Steve-O, the A&R person, Atlantic, Brent, the whole thing. So he goes, you should give my brother Barry a shot at it. I mean, he's a really good drummer. He plays in some funk bands and shit, but he can play rock and stuff, So in comes Barry. And see, and historically, we would meet these drummers before they'd come in and do the songs at Hooters, of course. Where else would you meet?
Sure.
So when Barry came, we were like, you know what? F Hooters, dude. We're going to Sticky Fingers this time. Maybe if we go to a different restaurant, maybe this will be the guy, right? So we go to Sticky Fingers, and Barry walks in, and he's a cool dude, and back in the day he had kind of spiky hair. He didn't have the dreads yet or nothing. And we clicked with Barry. We were just like, thank God that we finally found the guy, right? And so we started demoing with Barry, and then that led to the producer. That's a whole nother story, and how that happened. Fred Durst got involved. He had heard we met up with Fred at Kona, the skate park here in Jacksonville. There was a show going on there, and he met Brent, and actually Steve-O was there with him. And Fred actually called the president of Atlantic, Craig Cowman, and he was like, what are you doing with this artist? You guys are a hip hop label. You don't know what to do with rock. Why don't you let me basically have him? So, and we had been demoing songs, and we're like, dude, are they ever going to greenlight us to go out and record this shit? There's a lot of songs now, and Brent had been writing. He was on a writing tour before he even met any of us. And Fred actually calls. Next thing, literally, I want to say it was the next day. They're like, all right, you guys are good to do the record. We just need to figure out a producer and set up a timeline, pick the songs, the whole thing.
Wow.
So without Fred doing that, I mean, it was just a lot of like, hey, not ho-humming around, but there was a lot of like, well, we need more songs. We need to write more. We need to find this guy or that guy or this or that. But when Fred was like, nope, I'm taking him, or I'm going to figure something out. And literally we were greenlighted, and we met with, of course, Bob Marlette. We met with Linkin Park's producer, Don Gilmore, and maybe one or two other guys, but Bob really fit our band, and he had come in to Made in the Shade and helped rearrange a couple of the songs, and we were like, all right, this is our guy. And so yeah, we were greenlighted to do the record, and we went out to LA and we did it with Bob.
Wow.
And, at least that part of it we did with Bob. So
I didn't even know that whole story. I like that.
It's way worse than that, dude. But I'm trying to keep it Reader's Digest, But
I didn't know that Chumley was the reason.
Oh yeah,
that Barry is the drummer in Shinedown. I had no idea.
Well, Barry's the reason because he's a badass drummer. But you guys saw who you know.
Yeah. Well, he got the introduction, and
he did. Absolutely. Yeah.
That would have never. God, I wonder what kind of Christmas presents Chumley gets from his brother Barry, knowing that he's been able to have a steady gig in arguably one of the, or if not the biggest rock band in the past 2 decades. He must get something really nice every year.
Well, I know he got him a tortoise one year, and the tortoise is now it's like this massive creature. So yeah, I don't know what else he gets him from year to year, but yeah, he should probably get him hooked up for whatever the fuck he wants, right? I mean,
Tortoise
yeah,
is
I mean,
pretty cool.
so yeah, I mean, like I said, we had gone through, and I remember we had the song that I had co-written called "Notice Me," and we had a guy from Orlando. Do you know Matt Brown? He was one of the drummers we auditioned
No.
for Shinedown in the Days, and that dude came in there and just killed it. I mean, I think Brent offered him the job on the spot. I mean, that he ended up in 10 years for a little bit. Matt did. I don't know what he's doing these days, but he'd kind of grown up in studios, and that song in particular didn't make the record, although we did recut it with Bob out in L.A. So in that song, at least the demo version that Matt played on, it starts, in the tempo, let's call it, is 80 beats per minute. Well, when the pre-chorus hits, it bumps up 2 clicks to 82, or let's say. And then when the chorus hits, it bumps up another to 84. So this guy it's hard enough to play to a clip, to a tempo as the drummer, because you have to be dead to nuts, because that's what everyone's going to play to, whenever you go in to track the bass and the guitarist and everything. So this dude's playing to a moving click, and he's like hissing and shit when he's hitting the cymbals. We're like, the fuck is this guy? We got to have him. Like, what the fuck? And we, like I said, yeah, and then like, so then when the verse comes back in, it goes back to 80. So now he's back to the original tempo, and he nailed it. Now he completely nailed the song. So he turned it down. He turned it down. I don't know what his reason was for not, because Brent was like, dude, it's yours, man. I mean, hands down. Wow. You're a badass. And he knew Barry and stuff, and knew a lot of the same people we knew, but he didn't. Wow. It's like that and that was interesting to me, because the band was signed to a major label. We're on our way to a major producer, mixer, and record push and everything, and he didn't want to do it, man. But I tell you what, if you listen to that demo version of Notice Me, it's really his playing on it's really cool. It's very tasteful. You could tell he's a session guy, like a Josh Freese, but maybe didn't have as many breaks as Josh, but no, it was sick, dude.
Well, the irony of Matt Brown, the potential, was offered the job of the drummer in Shinedown originally, going on to play in 10 years. His 10 years big radio song was Wasteland, which was, from what I understand, the original idea for the name of Shinedown was Wasteland.
It was actually Save Me, the song. In my wasteland. The last line of the song is, in my blasphemy, in my wasteland. So that song was originally called Wasteland. It became called Save Me. Brent actually changed the lyric too, from, I think it was God, please save me if you will, to someone save me if you will. Take away all these pills. We kind of kept it a little sure it wasn't. We don't want to be backed in the corner in that regard. So
yeah. So it's funny, that ancestral kind of all these little things.
Oh, yeah.
But as fans, it's like you feel like you're getting the inside scoop that nobody ever knew. But to you guys, it's like, oh yeah, it happened. I didn't think anything of it. But that's the cool shit, man. That's a great story. It's a fantastic.
Oh yeah, man. It's and again, there was other other really good drummers too in there. My buddies and actually Gabe was in a band with Jason called Nefarian, and they were more like I don't know if I call it death metal, but they were more in that style of music. And Gabe ended up becoming Fred Durst's, basically his assistant, and John Otto's drum tech. He still works with the band here, 30 years later, whatever it was, 20 years later. So yeah, Gabe's an awesome dude. T-Bone was my longtime friend. He went out there to audition for Puddle of Mud with me, so I brought him in to audition for the Shinedown thing after the Puddle of Mud thing didn't work out for neither he or I, as far as being in the final band.
Was Will Hunt ever in the conversation?
We love Will, and we loved him. I think he was busy doing other bands, so I don't think that he was available. I don't know. I can't remember,
because at that time, that time, not only did he have Scrape, but he was also
Scrape. Yep.
filling in for Tommy Lee. with Motley Crue at that time. I think it was at that time.
This would have been 02
Yeah.
ish, something like 01, 02. I guess I meant, Brent sang at my wedding like he did yours.
Same
he did
song.
Thank You. Same song. Yeah. So I got married November 10th of 2001. So that was, we had already known Brett. We'd already been, or Brent, we'd already been friends and writing songs and formed the band, the whole thing. So, I mean, it was in that time frame.
I've always told him, I said, like, if I literally have no money, I'm going to release you singing Zeppelin's Thank You for my wedding as a single somewhere.
Dude, I have videos of us raising complete hell in my old house of Brent running around. We were out of our fucking mind. It's so hilarious. Mary's like, I got to dig these up and just watch them again. Cause our dog was chasing around this one time. He's like, I got the man in the house and the dog after me, man. And it was good time. We were bonding, just having good time. This was before, like, we'd really gone out there and toured. This was like the precursor to all that. We're just having fun. And of course I worked at Bacardi, so there was plenty of rum to drink at the house on any given Sunday. I'm having friends over. It was just like something you'd see in a movie.
Yeah. This is the good old days for everybody. Simpler times, my man. All right. Well, look, we'll stop it off with the questions there. We're running a little long, so I'll save it for next week. But like I said, just go into social media and leave us questions. We'll make posts up until next episode. For those that, I know it's kind of a new audience because you're Brad Stewart fans, which is cool. But there are other podcasts that are on this network throughout the week. I do one with my wife on Mondays called Honey, I Raised the Kids, about us becoming empty nesters. It's a lot of fun, very family, kind of friendly, but yet with a little bit of an edge. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is the BS. That's my original show, The Bailey Show. 2 of those are subscriber episodes. But anyway, we've got great sponsors. We're looking for more sponsors, especially for this podcast. If there are any interest in any business that wants to be a part of this, reach out to me or Brad via social media. You can get a hold of me, thebaileyshow.com, and rock and roll. But please share this content. Like, we posted, Brad reposted. We need more people, more eyes and ears on this podcast. So repost the stuff that we post about this podcast, put it to somebody in your network and say, hey, dude, new podcast. Absolutely love it. You should check it out. Very simple stuff, and that's it.
And we're very grateful for you in advance for doing that. And even just for listening. I'm like shocked that people listening. I don't know. I mean, it's fun though. I mean, I'm not shocked. I just, it's kind of a new thing. And some of these stories, I know you asked me a question and I ramble on for 10 minutes, but some of these questions, I mean, they got stories too. Every question has like a whole entire tangent.
You just got to remember there are no rules to this. And
no, I know.
You kind of figure it out as you go. And it's great. Like I love seeing the excitement just in the last, a couple episodes that we've done this, the feedback. And, for me, again, as a fan of rock and roll and music just in general, and to see your network of people, like, dude, the lead singer of Alien Ant Farm started following me on Instagram. I was like, that's pretty cool. I just saw
Dryden, dude. He's a hoot, man. He's a trip.
I was like, that's pretty cool. I just saw him a couple years ago. Never met the guy. Would love to. I love Alien Ant Farm. I love his style. I love his voice. I love everything there is. And they did put on a great show.
Oh, dude, they're amazing. We toured with them, of course, too. And the Ant Farm, they actually did Alaska too, was that first time. And, man, those guys are a hoot. Their sense of humor, they crack me. They're amazing.
Yeah,
Terry, they're just.
It's cool to like see all these different dudes. So maybe next week, Brad, you and I start thinking about getting some guests coming on. I did reach out to Steve-O about the deep dark conspiracy theory on the music stuff from last episode, and he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was like,
maybe he doesn't. Maybe Atlantic didn't do that. I mean, maybe it's something, it's specific labels or maybe he doesn't know that they did that.
Yeah. He said, and that was the only conversation. He's like, I'm done.
Whatever.
Okay. All right.
Well, thanks for fact checking me though. I mean, I'm just going on what people have reported.
I'm not neither confirm nor deny, but extremely interested. If I could get any more, there's some people that were posting on social media because that was one of the social clips I posted. Like, absolutely true. People in the business, So maybe one of these days we get lucky and somebody reaches out to us and goes, "Oh, I got the whole scoop on it. I want to come on." Anyway, you got anything before we get out?
Saliva on the 27th in Shelton, Washington. We'll see y'all down there. It's gonna be a good time. We're gonna rip it.
Shelton, Washington, Saliva. All right, everybody have a great, safe weekend. You're going to be doing some drinking. Understand, I get it. If you've had too much to drink, please don't get behind the wheel of a car. I've lost way too many friends like that. Thanks for digging this new show, the Vinyl Road Podcast. You rock, you're awesome, and we'll talk soon. And bye.
I think we should do a podcast about rock and roll. I got some stories.
That's it for this episode. Check out thebaileyshow.com for more shows. Until next time.